Good afternoon, it's 4 p.m. and we are bringing you the developing news and the stories behind the headlines. This is Storycon. I'm Regina Lay, sitting in for Ed Lingao and Ronald Llamas. Some stories we're watching this Thursday, January 30. Well, first off, the Philippine economy fell short of the government's growth target in full year 2024. The country's gross domestic product, which was released this morning, grew by 5.6%, below the target range of 6 and 6.5%. However, this is a slight improvement from the previous year's or 2023's 5.5% growth. President Marcos is in Cebu for a string of activities. Today, he led the Regional Development Council 7 meeting, which discussed presidential priority projects, amongst others. He also attended the 20th National Convention of Lawyers and met with governors and vice governors from the Visayas. The president concluded his Cebu stop with the inauguration of the Mactan-Cebu International Airport alternate runway. Speaking of the president, he says that he read all 4,057 pages of the 2025 national budget, and he insisted there were no blank entries as these are not allowed by law. The chief executive assured Filipinos that he closely scrutinized the General Appropriations Act of 2025.
Just last month, I had to read 4,057 pages of the General Appropriations Act for 2025. Because I reviewed it, analyzed it, and yes, in parts, vetoed it. And so for those of you, and up to now, I cannot find those damned blank items. We'll keep looking, but I really am convinced that they simply do not exist because it is not allowed to exist. So for those of you who think the presidency is just handshakes, photo ops, I assure you that fine print is alive in my office as well.
Well, joining me today is, as usual, Philippine Star Editor-in-Chief, Ami Pamintuan. Hi, Ami.
Hi, Reg.
Nice.
Women's edition to,
Women's edition, blue and green pa tayo.
Yeah,
Well,
Christmas.
Well, Chinese New Year after all.
Chinese New Year, yes. Chinese New Year, yes.
I don't know which of the headlines you want to react to first. Pero sige, what's in the paper's headlines today?
Dagdagan ko lang yung sinabi ni, kasi there's an additional word from BBM on the budget, no? Destabilization daw yan, yung mga challenges na yan. Actually, yung challenge is not just the blank items, which are being attributed to the BICAM, no? The BICAM report and not the GAA, which is signed. But apart from that, the constitutionality itself of the GAA is the one being challenged in the Supreme Court, including the higher budget for the DPWH, the increase which became higher than the budget for the entire education sector, plus the tripling of the amount for the unprogrammed appropriations, the new pork barrel, na binito niya supposedly, but you cannot veto unprogrammed appropriations niya, you can veto line items. And even when he vetoed it, naging double pa rin nung suggested amount dun sa National Expenditure Program. But anyway, that is comment, destabilization daw yon. Yan. And then meron pa siya sinabi, yung he wants to meet daw with Trump to discuss the immigration policy. So medyo malabo yun. I don't think President Trump is meeting with anybody ngayon about his immigration policy, no?
Yeah, good points. Especially the fact that nobody said naman that yung blanks were in the final version. Even
Yes.
House Appropriations Chair, Acting Chair Stella Kimbo has already clarified na nasa BICAM versions yon, which were then, they sorted out, and then the technical staff fixed all the numbers, and then it was transmitted to Malacanang for signature. So I don't know if he's just going by technicalities here now. Binasa niya all 4,057 pages and there were no blanks. Yes, there were no blanks in the final version, but the question was, were there blanks in the BICAM? And then,
hindi ba may kinokorek daw ng mga typo errors?
Oo. And then there's a question as well of whether or not they were allowed to do that, or they should have.
Yes.
It should have gone back to plenary because it's in the Constitution, right? There's an amendment in the Constitution. Tapos we've spoken to different experts about it, pero it seems like people are interpreting it different ways. Whether or not kailan ba it should have gone back to plenary, or were they allowed to do these technical corrections?
Saka sino nga daw yung nag-fill in the blanks?
And then also, I have to say he's a fast reader. If he says binasa niya all 4,057 pages, starting from when it was transmitted to Malacanang until yesterday when he said it, and taking out all the holidays in between. Mahaba yun.
Siguro, kinanap lang niya yung mga ganyan. May blanco ba? May blanco ba? May blanco ba? 4,000.
Yeah.
May dagdag pa siya, on another topic. Sabi niya, he's talking to China now. Sabi niya, let's make a deal. Kasi nagrereklamo yung China, di ba, about the Typhoon missiles. It's gonna start an arms race daw dito.
Yeah.
Sabi niya, sige, we'll return the Typhoon missiles, which will be used in the next Balikatan, no? And, pero you stop harassing our vessels in the West Philippine Sea. So mukhang walang kahihinap na niya naman.
Yung Typhoon missile issue is, we lost part of the story on this. We don't know exactly who decided na it'll stay here. Kasi initially, it was lent to us by the Americans, right? As part of the Balikatan exercises. Tapos for a time, they were insisting they're gonna pull it out after the drills are over. And then suddenly, oh no, it's staying here. And then, oh no, they're moving into a different location. So of course, it's going to, it's going to get earn China's ire over it. Kasi nga, it's a multi-role missile that can release missiles that get as far as China and Russia. So it's a serious piece of equipment.
I think our government actually is interested in acquiring the missile system, right? Typhoon, the IFP has already said it. We asked Mary Kay Carlson about it, the U.S. ambassador, and she said medyo ano sila eh. Sabi niya, you have to be able to handle the system, so you need specialized training. So anyway, she said it's under negotiation, but in the meantime, the missile system will be used again in the coming exercises this year. So, yun na nga. And the last we heard nga, it was transferred na. Relocated. Yeah.
To an undisclosed location.
Yes, undisclosed.
But there's also a question of, at least for me, can we afford the Typhoon missile? I mean, diba, we just cut the defense budget for 2025.
Yes.
And they're still in deficit. So at this point, do we have the resources to afford something like this?
And if we're going through the military aid from the U.S., medyo magulo ngayon yung aid ng U.S., no? Everything is frozen. Although today, the word from Washington was, unfrozen na daw yung order ni President Trump, freezing the funding, federal funding for grants and loans. Kaya ganyang kagulo yan.
Magulo. It's just day 10, day 11 of Trump 2.0. Yun nga, he issued a stop work order on all foreign aid. Then, last night there was an order to rescind that order. So we don't know what's going on. Parang, okay, which one's going to be policy here? It caused mass confusion in the U.S. as well, we hear.
Yes. And of course, another story from Washington, which we're watching, baka lang sakali na there are Filipinos, the collision of the helicopter and the commercial plane, no? Mabuti na lang, well, of course, it's a unfortunate event, pero mabuti hindi tumama dun sa hindi bumagsak sa crowded area.
Yeah, but I think search and
Terrible.
rescue operations are still underway.
Yes.
We know at this point that there were 64 people on board. We don't know if there are any survivors yet. It's hard to be doing search and rescue at this time of the day there because it's middle of the night in Washington, D.C. And the plane crashed in the Potomac River, which is quite dark to begin with. So yun nga, we're hoping, of course, that there will be survivors, but we don't know at this point. See, President Trump has been briefed about the matter, we hear, and his response was, "May God bless their souls." I don't know if he assuming that they're all already perished, but in any case, we know for a fact na there were 64 people on board at least.
Yes, kasi the word from the hospitals around DC is wala pa raw silang natatanggap na pasyente from the accident. So people are presuming na mukhang walang nag-survive.
Yeah. It's one of those really rare but scary accidents, no?
It's strange, no?
Yeah. How could a commercial jetliner crash with a military helicopter, right? Don't we have sophisticated
on training
systems?
daw yung helicopter. On training, but bakit magte-training in the evening, ano? If you're on a training, although baka naman evening talaga yung kanilang training, evening flight.
Yeah.
Kaya ganon.
But I mean, I'm just surely they have the most sophisticated radar and satellite systems to detect when they're in the vicinity of another aircraft, right? That was there was also a near collision, diba? Where was that? Somewhere else in the world recently. I think also in the US.
Korea sad too, yeah.
Yeah, yung near collision of a commercial jetliner. These things are always scary.
Tsaka we're waiting for the reaction ngayon ng employers naman and the business community to the legislated across the board wage hike of 200, which was approved by the House. So titingnan natin, although mukhang medyo I think we can expect na kung ano sasabihin ng employers, and of course the PCCI is composed more than 90% of micro and small entrepreneurs. And they will say baka hindi kayanin yan at baka mawalan ng maraming well, it will force either downsizing or even closure if you're a very small enterprise, no?
Yeah.
So we're waiting for those reactions.
It's one of those economic issues na parang you can see it from both sides, right? On the one hand, 200 pesos a day, it's about time because the last time there was a legislated wage hike was 36 years ago, if I recall correctly. And inflation since then has gone through the roof, right? On the one hand, you see it from that perspective. Okay, it makes sense. The wages need to be increased. But on the other hand, there is the concern, as you pointed out, na baka most of the small enterprises, which make up the lion's share of businesses in the Philippines, may not be able to shoulder it kasi it does add up. If it's 200 a day, what might happen is they might
5,000.
they might look at it.
naman.
They might look at it and say, okay, well, I've got 6 staff. I can only afford legislated wage hike for 4, so they'd have to let people go, right? Tapos that might then...
And we have a mechanism for wage setting. There's a tripartite wages and productivity board.
Yeah.
You cannot order people to pay, di ba? Yun ang sinasabi naman ng businessmen. You cannot order, especially the private sector, to pay what they cannot afford. You have to consult at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, yan ang dyan. You have to consult the group that will bear the burden of course, magandang productivity if you get higher wages.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
So, yan ang mga dyan. Pero, yun ang sinasabi nila. Meron namang tripartite wage boards and adapted per region. Kasi it's across the board. Kung pareho yan in Metro Manila, na mas mataas yung cost of living, and compared to certain other areas in the country, yun ang sinasabi naman nila. Anyway, we're waiting for an official statement from the business community rin to balance the story.
The ECOP, Employers Confederation of the Philippines, has already, as expected, criticized the measure, saying, as you said nga, meron naman daw tripartite wage board that is tasked with resolving this. They say it goes against the free market principles. If you're going to legislate something like this, you're basically forcing the hand of businesses.
Yes.
But yeah, it's in economics kasi I guess everything is a trade-off, right? But
Yes.
ECOP has already come out to criticize it. We don't know how serious this bill is, how serious the House is with this bill. Of course, putting
Yes.
everything into context, it is an election year. So hindi ko naman sinasabi one has to do with the other. I'm just saying like with the current climate.
Pero usually lumalabas yan, di ba, na around election time. Around election time, dalawang usual na lumalabas na mga proposal. Isa, yan, legislated wage hike. The other is the extension of the terms of barangay officials. Yan.
That's right.
Nagiging ano na siya, nagiging institutionalized na, no?
Yeah.
Expected na.
Very populist moves kasi because they know it will
Yes.
appeal to a large voter base. Again, I mean, pero there were previous measures already trying to push for legislated wage hike, pero it stalled. Again, remains to be seen
Yes.
how serious they are with this version. The difference this time might be it's a pivotal election year, right? The trust ratings of the administration are, on a downward trend. So I don't know if they might see this as something that could lift it up.
Pero yun na nga ang sasabihin naman ng kabila, yung iba. You do that, baka nga mawala ng trabaho naman yung iba, and sinong sisisihin nila? The ones who pushed for the legislated wage hike. So, yan, meron mga, as you said, there will be trade-offs.
Yeah.
Dyan sa ganyang mga moves.
Yeah. And in fact, that's today we had the GDP numbers, right? This morning, that was a
Yes.
big news. 5.6% for all of 2024, which is below target.
Yes.
Yung target ng
Below
government
target.
was 6.5%. And as I was pointing
Yes.
out to the other producers, this is the second year that the Marcos administration
Yes.
has missed the growth target. So basically, under President Marcos, we have not hit the growth target yet for the economy.
Yes. And I think we need to do better. I talked to business groups and diplomats from several major economies, and they tell me, our businesses, private business, our investors are packing up from China, but they are skipping the Philippines. They are going to Vietnam, Thailand. And I asked them, ano bang ayaw nila dito? A lot of things. Of course, power, the high cost of power, ease of doing business, hindi daw nag-improve. Corruption, merong several business groups are saying actually na this year lang, na corruption has worsened actually. So ito mga problema natin ngayon, and kapag nadagdag pa yan, yung mga ganyang legislated wage hike without consulting, okay naman sila sa. Of course, we have to keep increasing the pay of people, no?
Yeah.
Kasi it encourages productivity.
Yeah.
But you have to consult the people who will pay for it, Di ba?
Yeah.
So we have to think about those things.
Yeah, Ami, great point about yung the ease of doing business and corruption. In fact, corruption became the number one priority again, or concern of the Management Association of the Philippines, which represents a lot of the corporations here, right? And when they had their first meeting recently, they outlined corruption as the number one concern. Once again, I don't know. I believe I hadn't seen it as number one in a while. I don't know when the last time it was number one. But yung issue with power, of course, it's a perennial issue. It's always been there. It will take a while to get the power rates, the industrial power rates down. But there's also yung political climate, right? It's no secret that President Marcos has expressly embraced a U.S.-centric strategy and veered away from China. In fact, outside of the West Philippine Sea. There's also the Pogo issue, and then now there's this alleged spy
Espionage.
issue.
Yeah.
Alleged espionage issue that's hogging the headlines. Na parang okay, it sends all the wrong messages to China. And in fact, the worry now is it could become a diplomatic issue because the Chinese embassy is trying to intervene in the Chinese spy incident, right? So, but they're saying they're not being given access to the guy who was arrested in Makati.
The NBI arrested 5 more in Palawan
Yeah.
for spying.
Alleged spy din
Although
daw.
iba-iba ito, this is different, no? Kasi ang ini-spyan nila yung mga vessels naman natin. It's different from the one arrested dito, yung surveyor according to Tess Yangsi. He's a legitimate surveyor for a road tech company. Yan naman ang sinasabi nila. Etong isa, hinihintay pa natin kung ano yung magiging assessment naman ng Chinese community. Kasi they're saying, yun na nga, as you pointed out, medyo dahan-dahan sana ng pag-classify ng mga tao. Parang red tagging na daw eh. Parang
Oo nga, yeah, it's a different kind of red tagging. So, spy tagging.
Red.
What should we call this? Spy tagging or
Spy tagging.
espionage? Yeah. So parang
Hindi daw pinapakausap sa Chinese embassy personnel tong mga suspects.
that's right.
But
Sabi nga.
anyway, yeah.
And also, Tessie Angsi was saying he was being abused behind closed doors. They were beating him up.
Yan ang word niya. He was smacked.
Oo, whenever they didn't like his answers. So we don't know how much of that. We're trying to get the side of PNP and NBI on it, pero they've been turning us down for interviews. So we don't know at this point who's being truthful kasi they have vastly different versions of this story. Both the officials and the representatives of the alleged Chinese spy.
I'm waiting for the details pa of the one in Palawan.
Oo nga eh.
Kasi medyo iba nga yun eh. Medyo iba yung yung circumstances ng arrest na yun.
But also, when we spoke to AFP, I think it was a few nights ago, I got the sense that they think that there are dots to be connected between the one who was caught in Makati with the ones that they have discovered who were allegedly spying on Palawan. I got the sense that they feel that there are dots to be connected there. Pero again, we don't know what evidence they hold.
Yeah, iba-iba na kasi yung warfare, no? It's hybrid warfare eh. You're using AI, you're using technology, iba na yun eh.
Yeah, it's very...
And then, of course, we are very vulnerable. As our security officials have said, talagang hindi natin alam yan eh, because it's rapidly evolving and the acts of aggression are intensifying.
Yeah.
So we don't know it, and we're not the only country that's doing it.
Yeah.
That's closely looking into possibilities of spying.
Yeah.
Australia, the US, of course, well known, and other countries.
Yeah.
Hindi lang naman tayo.
Oh yeah,
siguro.
cybersecurity and espionage, huge issues at the
Yes.
moment. I'm sorry, we just need to take a quick break at the moment as we wait for our guest. Coming up, we've got Strat-based Group President Dindo Manhit. This is Storycon on One News. Stay tuned, stay with us. Good afternoon. We've got the developing news and the stories behind the headlines. Welcome back to the Story Conference or Storycon. I'm Regina Lay, sitting in for Ed Lingao and Ronald Llamas. Still with me, Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star. And also, we have with us on the line today, Strat-based Group President Dindo Manhit to help us dissect the results of the latest SWS survey. Hi, Dindo. Can you hear me?
Hi, Dindo.
Hi, Ami. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of your show.
Thank you
Yeah.
for taking time out of your busy day. I know it gets pretty hectic for you at this time of the day. Lots to break down in the latest set of surveys. Let's start with senatorial surveys, right? So we've got 8, essentially. The headline being 8 senatorial candidates backed by the administration are leading in the latest SWS survey, which was, of course, commissioned by Strat-based Group. This survey conducted face-to-face interviews with 1,800 registered voters. So still number one, we've got ACT-CIS Representative Erwin Tulfo, followed by former Senate President Tito Soto. The biggest gainer is in third place at the moment. We're talking about Senator Lito Lapid, who jumped from 11th place just in December of last year, so 1 month ago. He jumped from 11th place to between third to fourth place as of this latest survey. He's statistically tied with Senator Bongo. Then we have Senator Ping Lacson in the fifth place, going up from 2 spots last month. Then Ben Tulfo retaining his position in sixth place. Then that's followed by Senator Pia Cayetano, statistically tied with former Senator Manny Pacquiao. Then we have Makati Mayor Abby Binay, Senator Bato de la Rosa, who gained a little bit of ground, Senator Bong Revilla, who fell about 10 places. He was at roughly second place in December of last month, down to between 11th to 13th. Then we've got Willie Revillame, who also slipped several notches. And finally, rounding out the so-called winner's circle, we've got former Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Dindo, first question to you is, what's your overall assessment? What do you make of these numbers? There's some quite big jumps up and down.
Yes, we are in what we call a pre-election period, so there's no restrictions on advertising. And those that jumped, we noticed, had very heavy advertising over the past month since December. And I think they wanted to build that momentum, because when we hit the campaign period, February 12 onward, there will be limitations. They're trying to position themselves. The challenge now is, can they sustain it? And will the Marcos coalition, as he pushes it through his own coalition at the provincial and the congressional level, can deliver the machinery for the rest of his team, the rest of the 4 members of his slate?
Dindo, actually, the PCIJ story says the biggest spenders on advertising are Senator Amy Marcos and Congresswoman Camille Villar, who are down there. Now bumaba sila eh.
Yes.
And what do you make of Lapid jumping to third place? Ano bang ginawa niya? I don't think he has done anything new, except, of course, he has a very popular TV show. But wala namang pagbabago doon. So to what do you attribute these things?
For Amy Marcos, I think she's caught between the politics that she plays. She tries to contradict his brother, so he loses the support of the Marcos votes. Then also, though he tends to side policy-wise with the Dutertes, or the positioning with the Dutertes, he's also not perceived as part of the Duterte camp. So that is a politics she plays, and not one advertising or spending of advertising can really clear her position in the eyes of the voters. So she is caught in that situation of being really with no clear support base. On the part of Camille Villar, it's a reality that she came from nowhere among the Villars. We have to remember that from former Senate President Manny, the mother, Cynthia, and Mark, they were already popular. So they've been investing in advertising. But I believe she is in a striking position. And there's a possibility that she will come out strong in the right pacing. So I think the investment is really to put her there, to introduce her, and build a position as we go into the 90-day campaign. With Lito Lapid, you have to realize that we call it TV is king.
Yeah.
And
jump na.
It's possible that we have not had a report, but I've noticed a lot of those who jump had heavy spending. When I say spending, we've monitored it, but not scientifically as other people. But we've noticed a lot of posturing by people who was spending. The Bato de la Rosa, from billboards to television, and even social media. So with Lito Lapid, I think that's also a possibility. But again, we are in a free space right now. Like I think in the case of Senator Bong Revilla, maybe he doubled down a little, and lost some traction because he had good rating last December. But you can expect him to push further, I think, with his candidacy and spending. So, but for me, what should be factored in really is we have not started the actual campaign and the flexing of the political machine of a sitting administration. And in this case, the sitting administration, I feel it's still possible for them to gain 2 more seats, given the capacity for them to deliver the votes, because surveys are simply snapshots of what the public perceive, who they like. But with 90 days, it's how you communicate, how do you deliver the votes also at the local level to your national candidate. And that's something that we need to see. That's why with StratBase, we plan to do this monthly. So by the end of February, first few weeks of the campaign, we'll have another snapshot of where the people are. Then we build and rebuild until we see some trending or momentum towards the first week of May.
Actually, Dindo, ang nakita kong significant is some of the biggest advertisers are actually down there. Sila Ben Hurabalo, si Tolentino, even Bong Revilla. You see their faces all over. Lahat ng poste ng Meralco, nandyan sila eh. But lahat ng mga pader, lahat ng kung ano-ano. Pati sa online, they have a very heavy online presence, but they are down there. Yun ang nakikita kong significant actually dito sa results nyo ngayon.
No, Ben Harabalos is one of the... We're noticing him now, but the report that I saw is a lower... He did not spend much. This period. Always remember what we see or what we monitor. All the reports are 2-3 months old. So it's very important to be strategic in buying your ads. So this is reflective of the 2-week period that we run our survey. That's why I've said it's open season.
Yeah.
So with Senator Tolentino, I think this is really a challenge for him because I think he have reached a level of high awareness already. Unlike Ben Harabalos, who's still in his 80% level. So when you have high awareness and you're still not converting, it means people are rejecting you. So maybe he needs to step
sumikat
upwards.
siya doon kay Alice Go?
I'm not really sure of that
And the WPS issue.
But the WPS issue, I think he needs to be more consistent on that. And, I think I've spoken longer in WPS than some of these candidates. So not because you're speaking now, it's sticking to the mind of the public.
Yeah. Dino, as far as you know, so we're they can't technically be charged with premature campaigning yet because of a technicality in the law. But when you talk about spending at this point, where do you observe the most money going? Or is it still billboards? Is it TV? Is it online now?
TV and online is number 1 and number 2 in what shapes the thinking of the voters, because it's the source of news for them now. Radio is a far third, print is far fourth, but print tends to shape the news also. So if you write in the right news, so online and presence and it's hard to monitor online because not because you see them. That could be it's a very scientific and targeted approach. So if you're targeting the right voters, the right appeals, the right geographic area, and I've always argued that there are just 30 provinces in the National Capital Region. That's already 72% of our votes. So you spend time on those areas, talk to people from those areas, communicate and buy ads on TV and online in those areas.
How big of a... Go ahead, Amy.
No, these are still mostly administration candidates, although we know the midterm elections, the administration candidates usually do very well. Kaya lang, are you linking the results of your Senate surveys with the performance ratings of the administration? Because you also came out with, kayo din na nag-commission nata, di ba? Yung SWS performance rating of the administration remained high in the fourth quarter.
Yes,
on specific
issues,
despite...
Yeah,
Yeah.
there is a link. No matter how there are forces, and I would say organized forces, trying to diminish the performance of our president. Oh, you see that online. We track that in our research and intelligence team. There are actual support for the president and the programs he has. Can he sustain it? Can he translate it to his new, I call it his new unity coalition? Because something that we have failed really to emphasize is the president has built a new unity team. No? You have Pacquiao, Lacson,
Yes.
Soto, that were not part of his coalition before. And even we've noticed in the lower house, I think they were just among the incumbent ones, it's just less than 10 who signifies support for the Dutertes. So that kind of unity that is built will deliver votes at the end of the day, especially from the eyes of the public that might perceive them to be doing relatively well. I think they could do better, but doing relatively well because the performance of the president is still in the low, a little lower than 60, but it could be better if not for the 2022 area in Mindanao. So imagine if he does better in Mindanao the next 3 months, then his candidates
Yes.
will really benefit for a good performance rating because he's being pulled in a certain geographic area, which is Mindanao. But recovering in Luzon, but of course in Luzon, inflation is still a top issue.
Yeah.
And if you've noticed in that performance rating, inflation, not only with social weather station, we did not commission it, but we subscribe to Pulse Asia. Inflation is also top of mind of people, and the president
Yes.
is being challenged by that. I wouldn't like to use the word blamed for that. The challenge in terms of performance ratings.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all can feel it. But Dindo, since you talked about the ratings, let's dive into the next bucket in your latest survey results in the ones that Stratbase commissioned. Trust ratings for President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and Vice President Sara Duterte for January 2025, 50% say they have much trust in the president. That's down 4 points from just last month, right? The ones who say they have little trust in him inched up by 1 point to 26%. And then the same numbers for Vice President Sara Duterte are 49% say they have much trust for her. So she's below the 50% halfway mark now. And the ones who say they have little trust in her are inched up to 30% at this point. This basically crystallizes a declining trend in trust ratings for both the president and the vice president, as evidenced by numerous surveys, not just SWS, there's also Pulse Asia and Okta Research. It's both their numbers are on the decline. What do we make of this?
I think for the president, economic situation of our people, and it's reflective also in our GDP numbers. We did not consume so much that brought down our GDP for the year-on-year to 5.4, considering we were at 5.8 already. So I think inflation, lack of jobs, sustained income is affecting the perception vis-a-vis the trust rating on the president. Parang, I'll use the Filipino term, pagkakatiwala ka bang tutulungan o haharapin natin ang mga problema natin sa bayan. So, yung mapagkakatiwalaan. On the part of VP Sara, we've noticed it that it's really her lack of transparency and his failure to account on issues that has been raised against her, especially on the misuse of funds, confidential funds, and funds in the Department of Education, and while she was vice president. As long as she will not address that and try to avoid that, and these are all reports, though, it could be politically motivated if it's coming from the House of Representatives who are allies of the president, but these are all coming from Commission and Audit Report. But I think the public respects. We deal with that reality that we need to be audited, especially public officials, and their failure to address that will continue to decline, will affect her ratings or her trust ratings. But with the president, I see it possible recovering if he can help address the cost of living of our people. Presyo ng bilihin. No, it's a hard reality for the public, and it's also reflective in other surveys. We've seen that in other surveys that it's a top concern of people, and I think the president is being burdened by the economic hardship of our people, especially if we break down the demographics, the social class E.
Yeah, actually, that's a great. Let me just get this follow-up in. That's a great point because looking at the numbers, Marcos lost, by socioeconomic class, Marcos gained a lot of ground in classes A, B, and C. He jumped 16 points to 60% in January in terms of people who say they have much trust in him, right? He lost a little bit of ground in class D, about 6 points. He lost, so now it sits at 49% for him. But with Vice President Sara Duterte, this is very notable. In class A, B, and C, she lost 17 points. Now she's sitting at about 40% for those who say that they have much trust in her. And then also in class E, for the Vice President, she lost about 13 points. So it's now sitting at 47%. And these are the big movements in terms of socioeconomic classes in this particular round of surveys, which again, I will point out was just, the time span from this and the last one was just a month.
Yes, it's really perception of people, but in politics, perception is reality. From the eyes of the people, we are having some economic challenges, and we hope we can trust the president that he will do something about it. On the part of Sara Duterte, can we trust her to be accountable and transparent on the way he has spent public funds? So those become the challenges of our two highest leaders going into the election season.
Dindo, malakas pa rin ang Dutertes in Mindanao, ano? How much of the Duterte factor can you attribute yung pagbaba ng, continuing decline din si President Marcos, no? How much of that? They have a solid base on Duterte in Mindanao. Pwede pa rin siya ba? Is it still a significant factor doon sa numbers ni President Marcos?
The president is being pulled by either support, at least the term support,
yes,
or is there an actual
yes,
campaign to discredit him in Mindanao? Because when you look at economic issues, we tend to feel that more in highly urbanized areas, which is what we call the Calabar Zone, the Central Luzon, or the Mega Manila area,
yes,
but not Mindanao. So maybe there are organized efforts to create distrust on the president in the area of Mindanao. So it's up for its own team to communicate better in Mindanao or harness his political allies, the coalition that he built, to communicate what they are doing.
Okay, we're going to have to leave that there for now. Thank you so much for your insights and joining us on Storycon. That was Dindo Manhit, President of Stratbase Group.
Thank you, Dindo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, actually, I wanted to tackle, may isa pang
Yeah.
in the survey, there was also yung voter preference for party lists na hindi, I was being
yes,
cued to wrap up na. Pero I
yes,
wanted to quickly break it down for our viewers, which is number 1 is for PS, the pagtibayin at palaguin ang pangkabuhayang Pilipino. So 4Ps. Then Duterte Youth, as you guys were just talking about, may strong base pa rin. And then
yes,
you've got ACT, CIS. Those are the top 3 choices. Then you've got senior citizens, Ako Bicol, Tingog, FPJ, Panday, Bayanihan, and then finally Kabataan. That's just the ones that that have made the cutoff for party lists. Very interesting.
yeah.
Yung 4Ps, actually, they have about 11.8% of the preference, voter
That's a lot,
preference.
huh?
Oh, but that was a decline from their numbers last month. So last month in December, they garnered 13.5%. Then this month, bumaba to about 11.8%. Ang interesting there is as well, Duterte Youth yung umangat this month with
Yes.
just a little over 6% compared to December. The with these results, basically, ang pinoproject now is that 4Ps and Duterte Youth will be the only two-party list groups that will win
With
the three guaranteed seats in the House of
Three
Representatives.
seats.
If these results hold, if they don't change from now until election day, of course. Okay.
Well,
Sorry, that's. Did you have something to say, Amy?
no, okay na. Overtime.
Oh my, I'm being cued to wrap up already. Okay, that's all we have for today. Thank you so much for joining Storycon today. We had, of course, Amy Bamintuan, Editor-in-Chief of the Philippine Star, joining us via Zoom. Join us again tomorrow at 4 p.m. for Storycon. I'm Regina Lay, sitting in for Ed Lingao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.
This is the Story Conference Group or the Storycon Group.